Are you ready to go beyond the basics of marketing? I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Beyond, where I chat with the world's leading chief marketing officers and business innovators to share ideas that spark change and inspire you to challenge the status quo. Join us as we explore the future of marketing and its endless potential. So today on the show, I've got David Sandstrom. He's the CMO at Klarna. He's been at Klarna for 8 years as a CMO. We talk about his longevity. We also talk about Klarna's push into digital banking, their use of AI and how it's advancing their marketing practices inside, and how he's actually driven the team to help adjust and drive that transformation. That and much more with David Sandstrom. Well, David, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, it's been fun. I've been fun watching Klarna and what you guys are up to. But before we get into the business, anything new happening in your life?
In my life, my life is actually Klarna. So there's a lot of new things going on. I mean, we're releasing a new card in the US first. I think we announced mobile plans yesterday, or we announced the plan to release mobile plans with a couple of weeks. We have a balance live, so the ability to hold money with Klarna. We're now almost fully live with Walmart in the US, which is obviously a massive thing for us. So, I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
You're busy.
Very busy.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your career path. Where did you get your start and how did you end up at Klarna?
So I got my start within strategy, insights, consumer behavior. So I was a planner / strategist at a media company, which was a lot of fun. I've always been very intrigued by like human psychology, behavior, why people behave in ways they do, why they like brands, why they hate brands, why they follow influencers, why they don't. So my career start was a lot about like going deep into data, way before AI. So I had to do it myself, right? From that, I then transitioned more into creative because I wanted to bring these strategies to life, not only chug the data, but rather, okay, when we know these things about humans, can we create something that actually influences people? Because I don't like theory too much. Like there are a lot of good theorists out there, but really living what you work with and learn and produce something. And that is how I got into advertising. I used to be the CEO of DDB in the Nordics for 7 years, I think, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. So I spent a lot of summers here in Cannes because that was part of my job. And the last thing I did with DDB was actually start transforming Klarna. And then me and Sebastian, the CEO of Klarna, had a conversation. He said, why don't you join us and do this instead? And that's pretty much it. That's the story, yeah. And here we are, 8 years later.
I was going to say, it's been a while.
Yeah.
What do you credit the longevity?
I think the constant change. It's a cheesy thing to say, but I do think it's the constant change. Every year is a new year. Every year feels like a new book in the chapter of Klarna in my career. So it is the perfect place to stay if you want a new career every year without having to go through the hassle of switching jobs.
Well, last time we had you on the show, we talked a lot about buy now, pay later. That business is still growing. Like, how do you think about the growth and you talked about all these other things at the top of the conversation around your distribution channel. You're finding even more places to put that functionality, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I personally believe, although we're doing a good job at growing it, obviously, I need to believe that at least, I do think like we're riding a big macro wave here. Consumers, especially in the US, shying away from credit. I think the macro environment that we're in has also led to the fact that people have started caring more about their money, more about their finances, staying on top of things. And although I do think buy now, pay later is to some extent frowned upon from, sometimes from media, obviously incumbent banks and credit players, it is a fantastic tool. It is a utility for consumers, especially in times like these. It is an ability to spread your cost, no interest, no fees attached, and that is why we're seeing the growth. Like buy now, pay later is basically credit for people who hate credit.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so you've got buy now, pay later. You've got all this massive user base. You've started an advertising and brand building business for other brands. How does that come about? Like, and what's the latest developments there on that front?
Yeah, I mean, what we need to do now as Klarna, buy now, pay later has always been this double-edged sword, right? It's hugely popular. We're riding the macro wave, but on the other end, we don't want to be positioned as a one-trick pony, right? So the biggest challenge I have as the CMO at Klarna is really to try to tell the story about Klarna as being way more than this one feature, right? So we're launching the balance, which means that people, like, it's like a bank account, basically. People can hold money with us. We're launching our new card, which is a debit and a credit card combined. So we're doing all of these things, but the consumer education piece, that is really what we need to get across, right? How do we transcend beyond buy now, pay later?
And well, let's talk about you're extending into banking features. Do you think of yourself now as a digital bank?
I think we have to, right? We have probably always thought about ourselves as some sort of consumer, retail, everyday spending partner, right? And I do think that we've moved more and more into like very basic components. Like people want to be able to hold, save, and spend money. People want to be able to access credit. People want to be able to spend that online and in-store with the card. So the features and services that we're launching now really tells that story and speaks to that narrative way more of being I don't want to call it neobank, but more a global consumer retail bank.
Yeah. What's the apprehension of a neobank? I have to ask.
I don't know. I just don't like jargon, the term. I like calling things for what they are. But I think like already 10 years ago, like when we started to pivot Klarna, we had this like huge conversation around like, what is the world going to look like in 10 to 15 years? And then we said, well, there are probably going to be 3 to 5 global consumer retail banks based on tech/AI nowadays that dominate the market, because there are none, right? Most of the global banks are B2B and the consumer banks are local. Like they're huge, but they're still local in the US. There are very few, if any, global retail banks. And we're now seeing Revolut, Nubank, Klarna, and probably PayPal in that mix, starting to emerge into this something. And you can call it neobank, you can call it global consumer retail bank, whatever it is, but the place for money for consumers globally.
Right. Well, you guys have been very public on your use of AI. I mean, your CEO doing his latest report as an AI avatar. How do you think about AI and how does it work for you in your marketing organization?
I mean, so far, or the journey we've been on is like, it started out as a party trick. Like, look at these great things that you can produce and create and spit out. But, the hands had 6 fingers and you had 3 eyes. And like, it was a bit strange to now starting to grow into something that is actually useful. I don't think it's yet fully production ready, but what we use it as is a fantastic support to everything we do. But I continuously iterate that we're not doing yet anything new based on AI. We're only doing the things we used to do, but way more efficient, way faster, at a way lower cost.
Yeah. So it's essentially partnering with the creative process.
Partnering and shortcutting things that were tedious and costly, right? Just like, maybe a very basic example, but if you historically wanted to shoot a 30-second film, the process just up until shoot is cumbersome and costly. You bounce ideas back and forth, but the ideas are visualized by like handwritings or stuff like that. So we use it a lot for ideation now. So almost like briefing. I sit personally sometimes in VO3 and say, hey, we should be doing something along these lines. Then I still need professionals and creatives to take what I have done and make it production ready. But the first 80% of almost every project is just now cut short tremendously fast.
We talk about it starting out as like a parlor tricks or magic tricks, but what has been the key to helping people adapt it and practice using AI?
I mean, I think, and I get that question a lot, like what are the big things that Klarna has done in order to get this going? Because we're really at the forefront. And I talk to a lot of CMOs about this as well. And I think our investment in AI culture has been more important than our investment in AI infrastructure. And we've invested heavily in that as well. But When it comes to culture, we've really created a culture where people lean in. I don't think Sebastian would celebrate anything publicly that isn't part of AI, and people want to be celebrated publicly, right? So we measure AI use, we use it together on a daily basis, we have it as the starting point for everything. A common question is like, well, have you run this through ChatGPT or whatever, right? So the investment into AI culture and really almost forcing people to use it in the beginning, sometimes giving people tasks that are just impossible to do. Like if I would tell you, hey, translate this text into 15 languages, be done by Monday, like either you need a big team or you need like there is no way of doing it without AI. So our investment into AI culture has been fantastic.
Well, one of the, I think, hurdles for many organizations, and I think you might have a unique perspective on this, given your agency background and now like sitting CMO role. How does AI affect creativity or the creative process in your mind?
I mean, I think it's now unleashed. I think it's like people talk about this replacing creativity. I'm seeing the exact opposite. Like creative people, they are going to have like, it's their time to shine now because creativity is going to be the difference between good and bad, right? Everyone is going to have access to these tools. It's not going to be gated behind some like massive investments. Like everyone's going to have access. And creativity will be the thing that sets things apart because I know firsthand the difference between, prompting a good idea versus prompting a bad idea, or just giving it like the issue with AI is that it's also trained on the average, right? On the bell curve, you get the highest point of the bell curve, right? So if you prompt it too generally, if you're uncreative, if you just tell it, give me a campaign, you're going to get the top of the bell curve campaign. And everyone's going to get that. That might fly for a couple of more months. Next year, everyone's going to do that. Instagram is going to look different. TikTok is going to look different. Social channels, in my opinion, are going to be way more entertainment channels than actual social channels. So the creativity is just going to be truly unleashed. And for creative agencies that I know well, to me, a magical thing is happening. And that is the fact, which has always annoyed me massively with this industry, is that you have people that call themselves creatives. And they have gated the term creativity. And the only one who can be creative is creatives, right? And here in Cannes, you have copywriters and art directors who feel that they own that term. Now, everyone can be creative. There is no term creative anymore. It's just like that is gone. So everyone's there. And I do think we're going to see a almost like battle royale for creativity when everyone can be creative. The best creativity is going to win, not the ones created by Brazilian art directors.
I love it. All right. Well, I want to transition. There's a series of questions I ask everyone that comes on the show. First one, favorite question, a little bit more reflective. Has there been an experience of your past that defines or makes up who you are today?
I was born in the US, in Key West in the 80s. So, and my dad played a band. So he was a hippie and my mother is German. So I'm German by like, that's my nationality. So the combination of a hippie Key West musician and a very strict by the book German, I do think that's a fantastic combination that I feel within myself quite often.
It makes for a great CMO, apparently.
You never know.
Well, if you were starting this journey all over again, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think try to enjoy it. Like I always enjoy New Year's Eve when I stand there and say, oh, this was a great, like it's been a bumpy ride, but it was great. Like celebrate. Like I would like to be able to celebrate more on a weekly basis. Enjoy the ride.
Well, I guess, is there a topic you think marketers need to be learning more about, or maybe something you're trying to learn more about yourself?
I think you see the pendulum here in Cannes as well. Like if you would have been in Cannes 10 years ago, it would have been all about creativity, all about ideas, all about campaigns, art direction, design. The pendulum has now swung to the other side, completely to the other side, right? I haven't seen a single agency have a spot on the beach. It's all the tech companies, all the hyperscalers, right? The conversation is about AI, data sets, programmatic, targeting, segmentation, hyper efficiency. And I think that pendulum has swung slightly too far, right? I don't think we should be with the Brazilian art directors, but I also don't think that the industry can be fully dominated by data scientists. So I think we need to once again ask ourselves, like, how do you build a brand in times of AI, TikTok, and UGC, which is a very hard thing to do. It was easier back when everyone was watching TV.
Yeah. Well, are there any trends or subcultures that you're following you think other people should take notice of? I'm just mainly curious what you're curious about these days.
I'm currently quite curious about, like, as I said, how do you build a brand? And the creators are actually building the brands and you're just part of that. Right. So I'm quite happy that we have a strong brand, because that means that we can accelerate that through creators. But if we didn't have a brand today, we can't rely on this TikTok thing to happen. But in general, I'm always quite intrigued by, anti-trends. So as I said, like, it used to be very much about creativity. Now it's about data. Like, but what's the counterweight to that? And since we live in this currently TikTok, Twitter, or X time, where everything is very short form, very fast, I'm quite intrigued by long form video on YouTube again. I do think podcasts and YouTube are probably the only formats where you get some time with the viewer. Right? A TV ad is 30 seconds. A TikTok is, God knows, 4 seconds, right? You never get any time. 10, 15 minutes on YouTube, really going deep on a proposition, on a brand, on a story. Like, there's something to that that has been working well for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good plug for this format too.
There you go.
Last question for you. What do you think is the largest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
Again, I think that if we go completely data-driven, we're asking to be replaced. Like, the more you behave like a robot, the more likely it is that a robot is going to replace you. That's the thing. And I think we need, at least with one foot, to clinch on to what brands are. And I don't want to be too fluffy. I love performance and I love growing the business, right? But there is something magical to brands. But like the feeling they invoke, there is something there with, inspiration, aspiration, emotions, that I fear if we don't clinch onto a bit more, we're going to be replaced by data scientists, which are needed in the mix.
They are needed. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I reflect on what you're saying, and I think there's this notion of talk worthiness and whether your brand is, can play a role. And, I guess one of the gatekeepers to that is how successful you are at earned media or getting people to talk about you.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's a bad analogy, but I do think sometimes brands can be compared to individuals and people. And if you look at it, Taylor Swift, for example, she obviously has a team that coaches her. She probably is more data-driven than we attribute to her. But she's not 100%. Like, that is not built by an algorithm.
Right.
Like, there is some fairy dust, there's heart, there is emotion. Like, it's a good mix of really, really understanding your audience beyond the data set. And I think that is where brands need to be. They need to resonate both rationally, functionally on a utility level, but they also need to be something more. That magical thing like that you used to have with a Coke or whatever it is, right? And I think that the winners in the future are going to be companies that actually understand that and that find a healthy mix between the data sets and just the ungraspable, unmeasurable thing. And as you said, like talkability, or as I spoke about here in Cannes, brand fame is a huge business driver. Fame in general drives business because you just increase the probability of good things happening to you the more famous you are.
Agreed. Well, thank you for coming on the show again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Beyond is a Deloitte digital podcast. It's created and hosted by me, Alan Hart, and produced by Sam Robertson. We have even more cutting-edge marketing insights headed your way. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our latest episodes. I love hearing from listeners. Share your thoughts about the episode, the topic covered, or the show by commenting on this video or emailing me at marketingbeyond@deloitte.com. If you're interested in more conversations with industry visionaries, We invite you to explore other Deloitte Digital podcasts at deloittedigital.com/US/podcast. There you'll find the Marketing Beyond webpage with complete show notes and links to what we discussed in the episode today. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Beyond. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Deloitte. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only and does not imply endorsement or opposition to any specific company, product, or service.